I would define best practice as a technique or methodology that through an experience or research leads to a desirable result, and that result could be used by others, and that process could also be used by others. So that's how I would define best practice.
Well, to me, best practices are practices that are, first of all, identified by professionals, by employees, by corporations, and these are practices that they have shared and they have recognized as being good practices, good solid practices over time. They're proven over time.
I would consider a best practice to be the most efficient or productive means of accomplishing an objective or task or whatever the assignment might be.
A best practice is a business process or product that provides competitive advantage to an organization with financial and or organizational rewards. I believe best practices are accomplished through specific sets of business functions, and best practices can be evaluated by understanding differences between a company's business processes as compared to successful competitors. Best practices can be evaluated and quantified through measuring of business results.
So my definition of a best practice would be, those processes or key indicators, key variables that you control that lead you to success.
Okay, my favorite project management best practice would be the management of the work itself. Through the ongoing monitoring of the work activity, managing the cost of the project, as well as the scope of the project, just ensuring that all of these things that were defined during the project planning phase execute and are working as planned.
My favorite best practice is really in the planning area, and looking in the planning area, really risk planning and identifying risk and risk response planning. I get a lot out of that, and I think the project team gets a lot out of it because you're there with the team, you're brainstorming, you're identifying those risks. The team can feel real value in doing that, and then when those risk events occur, you have a response plan you can pull out and minimize or eliminate the consequences, and that's real rewarding to the project team and to me as a project manager.
My favorite, and I think by far the most effective project management best practice that I've utilized to date, is establishing a strong project team culture and putting in place the means to have good collaboration and communication and open dialogue between the team members, which really contributes to the overall success of the team and the objective of the project that they've been asked to provide.
My favorite project management best practice is initiating and planning projects. True to my engineering profession, I enjoy brainstorming new concepts and ideas with diverse teams that are motivated to produce a project scope and a project plan that involves something that's never been done before. Creating a project plan, concept scope, resource identification, a budget and a timeline, and selling the concept to management for approval and buy-in requires tapping into everyone's ideas and experiences.
Easily work breakdown structures. Developing work breakdown structures is my favorite thing to do. It's one of the best visualizations of what the project entails that I know.
Defining the project, actually developing the work plan itself. It's very labor intensive. All things have to be considered, or at least should be considered, and it's a tedious process. However, it's so valuable in that if that phase of the process isn't done effectively, other things downstream can potentially be impacted. So although I don't like that phase of the process, it definitely adds the most value to the project.
Well, that would be managing the expectations of all the stakeholders and the sponsor. Anytime you're working large projects like we do here, you have interest, different kind of competing interest. For example, we have a maintenance organization that maintains our substations and our transmission lines. We have sponsors, obviously, that are looking to get as much built as they can for as low cost as they can. So you have low cost as an expectation of the sponsor, perhaps, and you have high reliability, high maintenance as an expectation of the operation and maintenance people. So it becomes the project manager's job to try to drive out a good product scope that satisfies all parties involved. That can be a real challenge at times. It can get a little bit political.
The amount of good, solid documentation that is really required, almost as if you feel like you're writing a dissertation or a thesis sometimes, and I think it's indicative because as a lot of project managers have technical backgrounds, as I myself do, and that's not really something you consider when you go through your college and learning, and then I remember back to times past when I thought a teacher asking me to show all my work and box the answer was absolutely absurd. And now I find myself writing meeting agendas, meeting minutes, and all the documentation of what happened, what the assignments are, action items, and then really just documentation as far as our project plans, scope, objectives, team members, and all of this, so that you have that well documented where it's accessible for the project team to use, and if there are questions, you have a good source to go back to. So that by far I think is the most advantageous, but often troublesome, and because it does take a lot of time and thoroughness, but overall it's very beneficial.
In my current role in organization, leading and executing project risk management plans has been most challenging. I think organizations today are aware of the need and the benefit for risk management planning, execution, and monitoring. However, it's very difficult at times to get buy-in from the team and management to allocate time to properly produce a good risk management plan. I think the lack of a risk management plan is the biggest risk for project derailment.
I'd say the actual putting together of the project plan is the thing that I hate to do the most. It's an administrative task, so it's kind of hard to do, and it's difficult to find the right words to describe exactly how you're going to do things. And then taking that project plan and getting stakeholders to approve of it sometimes gets to be a semantical exercise. So I'd say the writing of the project plan is very valuable. You can't get along without it unless you have that stakeholder input and buy-in. Then you can't go forward with the project properly. But it's a hard thing to do.